Well, attorneys for Donald Trump are requesting that statements that he made during the presidential campaign, that they should be excluded from the upcoming Trump University fraud trial, including comments like, quote, beauty pageants, casinos, corporate bankruptcies, as well as probably the comments he made about the judge. Could they have a point? David Schwartz, Keisha Hedlund. Both defense attorneys, former prosecutors. Welcome to you both.
Hey, Eric.
Well, here's the complaint. I mean, Daniel Petruccelli, who is a famed attorney in Los Angeles, has said that everything basically that Mr. Trump has said shouldn't be included. Do you agree?
I agree 100%. None of this should be included. The trial's a laboratory. It's a laboratory where only evidence that's relevant towards the subject matter, which is Trump University, should come in. So anything else, the campaign, the speeches, the alleged sexual misconduct, none of that, taxes, none of that should come in.
But what about what he said about the judge and the Mexican heritage?
Oh, that's completely irrelevant, and it's prejudicial towards Mr. Trump. So
shouldn't the jurors have a right maybe to know how Mr. Trump feels?
I disagree with David, because with trials, one of the things that the judge or the trier of facts relies on heavily is the credibility of the witness. Are they telling the truth? And a lot of the things that this evidence that the defense or his attorneys don't want in have to do with his credibility. He filed fraudulent bankruptcies. He lied about different things that he's now being accused of.
Could they use his comments against him if Donald Trump takes the stand?
Absolutely.
I think all of that should be precluded. There's going to be a pretrial hearing, and when he takes the stand, the judge is going to rule as to what comes in and what stays out. And these are all alleged
But
facts.
if he makes a comment on the stand and that there's some factual information out there that is total opposite, the cross-examination attorney can then impeach his credibility. We do it all the time as litigators.
I do want to make a point. I don't know about fraudulent bankruptcies, as you said, versus the bankruptcies of some of his companies. But here's what Daniel Petruccelli wrote in his motion to the judge. He says, it is in the ballot box where they're free to judge Mr. Trump based on all this and more, but it is in the jury box where they must judge him in this case only on evidence and argument relevant to the issues at hand. Plaintiffs have no right to cross those lines in an attempt to inflame and prejudice the jury, and it is the court's duty to protect the integrity of the judicial process and defendants' right to a fair trial that can only happen if extraneous, irrelevant, and prejudicial matters are excluded from the courtroom. So, David, that sounds like you're on the page with them.
Well, it's a great statement. It's very well said. And the bottom line is, in trials today, there's so much communication out there. There's so much social media that I feel, especially in my experience, juries are not paying attention to these instructions anymore. And that's why it's so important that the judge goes overboard to explain to the jury that they need to keep irrelevant material out of this case.
But at the same time, they've got students. Donald Trump, as we've seen, does have some of the students who loved Trump University, who've given testimonials saying that they were very happy, did not know about any alleged fraud at all. So should that be brought in?
Right. While some of the information that they're trying to preclude may not be directly related to this Trump University case, it has a big bearing on whether there was some fraud, because it goes to the veracity of the people who were involved, including Donald Trump. If he gets on the stand and he says all these things about this is not true, but then they can bring in evidence to say, okay, there's a pattern of fraudulent behavior here.
But his defense has been it wasn't him, it was people running it that he trusted, basically. And he's also said there was no fraud.
Yeah, well, first of all, they have a 98% approval rating. So if we're going to go into the merits of the case, that's certainly going to be a big part of Trump's case, that they have a 98% approval rating. And the other 2%, it's sour grapes. You know what? People who go to Harvard sometimes don't get what they thought they were going to get out of it. It doesn't mean anything. It's really up to the person. They're given the education. So I think Trump's going to win this case, hands down.
Well, that's where the juror's decision comes in, and I think that there's enough evidence before a case even gets to trial. They look at everything to say, okay, is there enough to say that this person could be actually found guilty of what they're being alleged to have done?
Do you think he can get a fair shake?
I think he can, with great lawyers who pick jurors the proper way.
It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough for him to get a fair shake with the publicity about this case.
All right, we'll see. The trial supposedly starts November 28th, I think.
Yeah.
So all eyes will be on that, of course.
Yes.
David and Keisha, thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
Arthel?
All right, guys, thank you. Well,